welcome back to Cindy's Library. This is Cindy, and today I want to talk to you about a series that I really enjoy, and that is the Mage Storm Trilogy. This is by Mercedes Lackey. Now, to give some background, this is part of her extensive Heralds of Valdemar series. Valdemar is a country that is a bit unusual in some ways. There are heralds, and every herald has a companion that looks like a horse. What they really are is benign spirits sent back to help guide people. And anyone who is chosen by a companion becomes a herald. Hence, Valdemar is a pretty good place to live, being watched over by its heralds under the Queen. Well, the time these books take place, the Queen. Because companions, they offer good advice to their heralds. They keep them on the straight and narrow for the most part, so to speak. And so overall, it is a pretty good country to live in. And the story of how that all happened is another one. But at the time that Storm Warning, which is the first book, starts, the Alliance, which has Valdemar as one of its key center players, well, they were at war with Harden, a neighboring country, traditionally an ally. But sadly, a number of things happened in Harden, and Ankar, who was the prince, became king, and he was bloodthirsty and crazy, draining his resources to attack Valdemar. That has ended because Ankar has died, and so as far as that goes, an easy truce on both sides, except for the fact that the huge empire on the east has decided to invade Harden and annex it, as it has a tendency to do with small countries around it. And of course, Valdemar and its allies are very worried about this, thinking they might be next. Into the midst of all of these policies, we have Valdemar's traditional enemy, another neighboring country called Karsi, who is very different from Valdemar, and they've been at war for centuries, literally. On Valdemar's part, they would be perfectly happy to be peaceful, really. Karsi, no, not so much, unfortunately. They've had a slew of corrupt rulers themselves, sons of the sun, speaking in the name of their one god Bankus. Until a few years previously, when Bankus himself overturned all of that, and the first time in centuries appointed his own son of the sun, and basically ordered peace and alliance with Valdemar and their allies. So, mostly because of Ankar's war, because Valdemar is not the only ones he had his sights on, although his primary one. He soon went after Karse too. So that's where the situation stands at the beginning of this series. Um, for more information about many of these things, uh, you can read the Arrows of the Queen trilogy. Let's see. The Heralds of Valdemar trilogy, I'm sorry, starting with Arrows of the Queen, and the Mage Winds, starting with Winds of Fate, and Carowin's Tale by the Sword also hooks on to all of this history, which is helpful but not necessary. Mercedes Lackey does explain all the backstory really that you need to know. At this point, Ankar's dead, Eastern Empire's invading Hardorn, and the first Karsite envoy and his secretary are being sent over, well, the first in centuries at least. So, they are wondering what kind of a reception they are going to have, how things will be in Valdemar. We get a number of different perspectives. Chief one is probably one of my favorite characters ever, which is Carl. He is the envoy's secretary. And while he's not a novice anymore, he is a newly minted sun priest. His master Ulrich is a full sun priest, of course. And so that's a lot of it is Carl's adventures, and of course, being connected with the Karsite envoy as a secretary, he hears a lot and learns a lot about what's happening with the Eastern Empire and that situation and how things are falling apart in Hardorn. Not that they weren't already falling apart under Ankar, but with the Eastern Empire invading. And I just love him. He's not perfect, and he starts with being naive, with some foolish ideas, but he's just a genuinely good person, and I love that. And of course, he learns and grows. One thing, well, one other major perspective, and there are others, is Andashe. His is a long and complicated story. The main thing to know about the part where we start here is after many traumatic experiences, his life is kind of back in order, but he is very afraid based on past experiences. And he has spells of fear that have nothing whatsoever to do with his, well, at least immediate past experiences. It is a fear that he feels indicates something is coming, and that something is bigger and worse than this Eastern Empire. And I can't say much more about it than that plot-wise, except that he is absolutely right. Something does come that's bigger and worse than an Eastern Empire known for gobbling up its neighbors. Lots of fun characters. You'll recognize plenty if you have read previous books about the Heralds of Valdemar, especially the ones I already mentioned. But we have new characters, my favorite of which, of course, is Carl. So, yeah, one of my favorite series, mostly for Carl's sake. I could even, well, no, I can't cut out all the other perspectives, plot-wise at least. But character-wise, I'd be happy to spend time with just Carl the entire time. Of course, story-wise also, there's plenty happening elsewhere that Carl has no way of knowing about, so can't really do that. But, fun world. Enjoyed it for decades, and maybe you will enjoy it too. Like I said, you don't necessarily have to have read other books to start here. So, let me know if you have read these specific books. Storm Warning, Storm Rising, and Storm Breaking, or if you've read any other books about the Heralds of Valdemar and their friends. So, thank you so much for stopping by. I truly do appreciate it. So, guess that's it. Until next time, I hope we all stay safe and healthy, and as always, happy reading!